podcasts, plural, and
Yes.
can invite whoever he darn well
This is
wants to
also
his
true.
own
Oh,
podcast.
really?
Because I am also a heathen, so mine is explicit, so I can curse all the flip
Yeah,
I want.
but not
Right.
now.
That is right up my alley,
See,
though.
We are live.
I caught it.
We are live now. So I'm just going to hit the record button. By the way, hello, YouTube land. If you are watching, you can type in the chat. I am monitoring the chat.
Hi, Shane.
Shane came and left a message and went to bed.
Bye, Shane.
So,
Shane is our British superfan.
yeah.
Hi, Shane.
He is amazing.
All right. Hello, Mixed Nutcases. This is Nuchas, and today I've got a brand new guest to join us. We are going to be talking about cartoons then and now. But first, as usual, we have
Hi, I'm Still Tech.
and our often cohorts from the Talk Nerdy to Me podcast.
Hi, I'm Jen.
And of course, I'm Jason. They're
And our-
probably getting tired of me.
Nah, never. And our brand new guest, first time podcasting, Cee Jay. Hello, Cee Jay. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So just a little background information. Cee Jay and I met in a Facebook group, and she said that she was interested in podcasting. And I said, well, come on my podcast and get a feel for what it's like. And she came up with this topic, which I'm very excited about. So we want to talk about cartoons then and now. So like mostly, 80s and 90s cartoons. There's a big difference between what was the impact of what was going on then and what we're seeing now with cartoons. Does anyone want to start us off with some like classic, like what you think of when you think of 80s and 90s cartoons?
We have to start with the Saturday morning cartoons. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's what we all grew up with. That was sort of a multi-generational thing that, it led to all kinds of revolutions and things that, the Saturday morning block of cartoons on multiple networks of all of the competing shows vying for our attention. And then it led to not only the TV shows, but the marketing on those shows that was then aimed directly at our age. And then that led to multiple governmental inquests in different countries to what are you allowed to advertise to children, and sugary cereals and toys and other things, and led to revolutions in marketing, led to revolutions in advertising, led to revolutions in children's programming.
Cartoons becoming the advertisement.
Right. Well, that's been a thing for a long time, even before that. That now you make the show to launch the toy line, to launch the video games, to launch the pajamas and the toys and the breakfast cereals and all the rest of it. But you look at cartoons now and where we have come, and it all comes from that weird Saturday morning block. And one of the things that I like on TV that is almost gone compared to then is that there were very definitely shows in the 80s and 90s that we were watching that was a boys show and a girls show.
Absolutely.
Now I'll say that is mostly gone, question mark.
I would say for the most part, yes.
It's much less gendered.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'll use an example like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was a boy show. I didn't watch it. I was watching Sailor Moon because that was a girl show. Like, it was never. And even now, the movies are out, and I'm like, no, that was a boy show. I didn't watch it. But at the same time, I watched Beasties, which was a boy show. So it kind of, it's just. It was whatever you kind of were into at the time. I was a little bit of a tomboy, so I kind of got away with watching, boy shows. But yeah, definitely I would say it's not as gendered now.
I think a great example is the original My Little Pony. That was definitely geared towards girls.
100%.
And now if you look at My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, that is geared to all genders. Just you. Friendship is Magic is awesome, so shut up.
Excuse me. Hold your liquid in your body, please.
The show is, to explain to Cee Jay and to recap our friends who may not know the story, when we worked at a community radio station in the East Coast of Canada, we did a charity thing where for $50 you could pick the topic of our show and force us to like something. So
wow,
our good friend Zach donated $50 and said that we had to talk about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic for an hour, and we had to like it. So we all sat down and watched a season for research. Now here's the thing:
you did it twice.
Yeah, because we had too much to say.
That's the point of the story here, right? So we watched Friendship is Magic, and all of the other hosts on the show, the other hosts have children, so they've got a built-in pre-excuse to watch the show. We do not. We watched a season and a half, and we talked for an hour around my friend's kitchen table playing with his daughter's action figures.
Oh my God.
And we talked for an hour and then realized that we had more to say. So we talked for another hour. And
really,
and the only bad thing we had to say was that there was no really bad things to say.
Yeah.
The only
basically became bronies.
No.
But
I look at it this way. The show is very obviously geared at a young girl audience, and you can see that definitely in the type of story they're telling and the morals and how they present their thing. But the animation is excellent. The voice cast is one of the best in the world. The stories are fun. The writing is great, and it's funny. And just because it's a show aimed at little girls doesn't make it a bad show. And this whole thing that just because a show is made for an audience that I am not does not necessarily make it bad. It means I'm probably not interested in it. I mean, that show is sweet enough to give you cavities. I mean, you have to brush your teeth after watching that thing. It's so sickly sweet.
Well, I mean, it's, to be fair, it's in the title, right? Friendship is Magic, and the base concept of that is making friendships with different people, no matter what they're into, what their personalities are. Like, and that's one of the big things about that show. And I will always say this because I think it was the forebearer to what we see now in a lot of these modern cartoons of these overarching narratives. Before, like when you came up in the 70s and 80s, it was very episodic because of syndicated television, and you didn't have to, you could get that anime from Japan and not play it in order because no one cared because it was a cartoon. Whereas now you can watch, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, and you see these episodes and you're like, wait, who is this person? Is that someone important? But yet the episode can stand on its own, but you'll miss the tidbits that lead you to that overarching narrative that could finish out the season.
Right.
And it's funny because I think that's the biggest difference between today and then is that more attention has been paid to the narrative and constructing an entire universe, whereas we could talk about G.I. Joe and Transformers and stuff like this all the time, but none of those had an overarching story or concept that lasted from episode to episode.
Hang on one second. I want you to repeat that because CJ was moving her laptop and it made.
Sorry.
It's okay. I just want to make sure that we get a clean edit. So say that one more time. The last line.
It's just that those shows didn't care about the overarching narrative, so you could pick up those shows from any point and you would learn about those characters, learn about what's going on, and you wouldn't miss anything. Whereas you kind of have to watch these shows nowadays in order.
But now that we have streaming services, now we can mainline a show and watch them in any order that we want and go back and watch episodes that we missed. And given that we didn't have that in the 80s, it makes sense to distribute things in an episodic model, because if you miss a week because you're at your grandma's house and your grandma doesn't have cable, well, then you don't want half your audience to quit watching the show. The other big difference back then is it was very obvious that the showrunners, the producers, the networks did not care about their audience. It was basically flashy lights and colors to get the kids to watch so that they could get the ad revenue and they could sell the toy lines. It was very obvious that they did not care about us at all. And these new shows very definitely care about the audience. And you can see that in the quality of the product that's being pushed out. Cee Jay, I don't know how old you are, but do you remember the Adventures of Rocket Robin Hood?
I'm guessing that's a Canadian show,
right? And then there was the matching Hercules show that was the Hercules. No, it wasn't the Hercules Power Hour. It was the Hercules, but it was bad. And you had that really awful goat dude with the pan flute. And
was this around the time with that Vincent Price show?
The Hilarious House of Dr. Frightenstein is fantastic.
It is.
I don't know what is wrong with you.
I didn't say that.
The DJ's name was Wolfman Jack, and the joke was he was an actual Wolfman. I mean, but Rocket Robin Hood and these other shows was basically what I was describing. It was flashy lights and colors meant to sell ad revenue to children in the 70s. I know our fans. I know the people that are listening to this, and hello, all of you. And I think that collectively, if I locked you in a room for 20 minutes, you could come up with better animation and better voice acting than these shows. I guarantee you that. All of the monsters on the show made the same noise, and it was kind of like, look out, Herc, it's Daedalus. It's Daedalus, Herc, it's Daedalus.
Oh, wait, I've heard you do this before. Hang on. I've seen this shtick before. So how does that compare to, say, the Raccoons?
The Raccoons got better. It had better music, better animation. It wasn't a bad show with the evil Cyril Sneer. Absolutely.
It's coming back.
Bring it back.
They're bringing it back just like My Little Pony.
It's funny, right? Because one of the things, they kind of only cared about getting it on the air. They didn't care what order they got it in. They didn't care how they had to translate it. Because, spoiler alert, one of the best things I can do, or what I do for fun, is listening to bad dubs. I'm looking at you, Streamline. Oof. But with that said, those shows still were transformative. I mean, look at Robotech. Look at what Carl Macek acquiring Robotech did for anime here in America.
Then go back and watch Super Dimensional Fortress Macross and get the story that you missed, because they completely changed everything. And about halfway through, when they bought the second series, when they bought Mos Paeta and turned it into, what was it, Southern Cross, where it was supposedly the kids of the first generation, but the stories didn't match up, and they just sort of, nobody's paying attention. It's the same story.
It's just robots and stuff. It's fine. And they did major changes. Like, spoiler alert, if you didn't know, Rick Hunter dies, guys. That guy dies. Matter of fact, in that original series, he's super dead. Also, spoiler alert for all you Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fans, the Green Ranger, he's super dead too.
Have you been eating chicken?
You know what? Those shows are like 30 years old. For Macross, I know it's probably well into the 40s, if not older. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out in Japan in the what? I don't know.
Early 70s, late 60s?
Yeah. The tokusatsu stuff has been going on for a while. So if I spoiled the fact that the original Green Ranger was savagely murdered in a duel with the Red Ranger, I'm so sorry.
So have any of you gone back to watch a show that you really liked when you were younger, only to realize, wow, it's as bad as the shows I didn't like?
Voltron 1984 came back on Netflix, and you can go watch the original. Don't watch Voltron Legendary Defender. It's much better.
You shut your dirty mouth. I have 510 special edition box sets of that show sitting on my shelf,
and they all suck.
It's amazing. I am on the other camp. I'm going back through and trying to watch it now, but that new Voltron, it's not hitting me, and I don't know why, because it's giant robots fighting giant monsters. I don't know why. I just can't get into it. I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Wrong with you. I love it.
I think I'm gonna have to put that. I'm gonna have to put it in the same headspace as Buffy, because I couldn't get into Buffy either.
What? How dare you? You shut your dirty mouth.
I can't. I just can't.
How dare you?
I can't get into early weeding, man. But you were talking about going back and watching something and realizing that it may not have been as good as you remember. You know, I might technically have a podcast about that. It's called Nostalgia Pilots.
Nostalgia Pilots, yeah.
Where we're going back and watching Gundam Wing over from episode 1. And ooh, baby.
How many seasons of Gundam do you have to go through?
Where there's only 50, like Sunrise, they're cash on this. There's only been one Gundam series that's ever gone less than the mandatory 52 episodes. So you got 52 episodes of Robot Smashy Smashy. But my lord, the dub on that show.
Because I'm not listening because I haven't actually seen Gundam, but you lost some hosts already, haven't you? Yeah, that just explains it.
Traded out.
They were busy. They had a really busy schedule. And it made it a little more even because now it's me and Hugh who have seen all of it, and the Jerd and Spence have not. So they're watching this for the first time and getting all that lovely 1990s anime dub greatness.
So it's like intercasting. Awesome. So yeah. I'll tell you what I went back and watched, and Thundercats sucks so bad.
Agreed.
I loved that growing up. I had I was obsessed with it. It was so cool.
Were you working through things with Chitara? Like, is this going on?
You know, I might have actually, to tell you the truth. If you said think of a sexy woman when I was a young person, I probably would be picturing Chitara. That's for dang sure. But I tried to watch it and I couldn't get through one episode. I just couldn't get through it. But my memory of it was that it was great, and it's so bad.
Yeah, it's kind of terrible. Like, and it's also like, I don't know what it was with cartoons from like the 70s and 80s, but they didn't pay attention to subtext. My God, like the phallic nature of his sword alone would have TV. Like parents nowadays would be furious.
But parents nowadays
Prince
are
Adam.
just soft.
I know. You know what? I have to agree with that. A lot of parents today get very sensitive over like the stupidest things because I will absolutely agree that a lot of these cartoons were incredibly inappropriate. I'll give you an example. I'm gonna go into the 90s because yes, I am younger than you guys. So Rocco's Martin Life. Rocco worked at a sex phone operator line, whatever you want to call it.
Are you serious?
Highly inappropriate.
Yeah, I remember
highly
the
inappropriate.
I never watched it because it was on cable.
Yeah, he worked. He was a call girl.
Wow.
Yeah, and no one picked up on that. And it's like now parents would be outraged, and that show would have gotten pulled immediately.
Well, they were not aware, and you look at Prince Adam and He-Man and all of the great homoerotic subtext on that show. But then they got hyper aware in the 90s. Like
yes,
you mentioned you were a fan of Sailor Moon. How much that show changed in the dub?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
No, it's not even the dub.
No, the reason those girls are holding hands is because they're cousins. And they're
right.
I'm about to say it's not just the dub. All the Sailor Starlights, they were transgender characters, and they made them all girls in the English version.
No, even the villains in the original show.
Yeah.
Were some of them were trans characters, and they just that's a boy and that's a girl. They're fine.
Wasn't that the case with Team Rocket and Pokemon?
No, it was that James, the male of the pair, he cross-dressed on the regular, and almost in one episode he cross-dressed. It was like that until the episode where he wore a bikini and had boobs for some reason, and people were like, "Uh-oh." That doesn't work. And like it wasn't even, and like the worst part is they brought attention to it because Brock, the pervy character in the show, was like, oh my God, she's so hot. And they're like, dude, that's James from Team Rocket. And he's like, oh.
Wow, I really did not watch enough of Pokemon. I didn't even know there was a pervy character.
You'll have to watch.
Brock you could tell. Brock was obviously pervy. You could tell it was.
Yeah, you'll have to watch like the more modern releases to get the uncut episode, because the original releases didn't have the uncut episode with him actually dressing in women's clothing and having boobs and
So Yeti Sarge in the chat says, "End his boobs."
Yeah.
Welcome, Yeti. It's really funny this little subtleties and stuff, and the confusion and how much like these different cartoons really played a role in like what you thought was normal. But when they would change things like that is just completely crazy. But I'll tell you, I mean, like growing up, I'm thinking of the X-Men cartoons, and I think that was like one of the few cartoons that had actual storylines that carried from one episode to the next.
Because we went back and we started watching that on Netflix, and it held up. It held up, and I quit watching it on Netflix the same time I quit watching it when I was a kid. When you get to those Rise of the Phoenix episodes, and it's 3 consecutive episodes of the Phoenix shrieking. Yeah. All it is 22 uninterrupted minutes of Jean Grey yelling at the top of her lungs. I quit watching. I'm sorry. I have hearing problems. I'm done.
But you know what else held up really well? Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah.
And Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. I never watched Spider-Man.
The original, the 60s one?
No.
That did
not hold up. That couldn't hold up air.
The only good thing from that is that Ramones video.
Oh my God. The Ramones did a cover of the theme, but the music video is the band animated to look like the 1960s opening credits.
Oh my God.
And it's the Ramones 3-chord rock cover of that classic 60s theme. It is the most amazing thing the Ramones have done, and I'm lying because everything the Ramones have done is amazing. I happen to be a huge fan. But it's good.
So I forgot to mention this when we were talking about sensitive parents. They picked up on a lot of stuff, and honestly, it generally had to do with like nudity or sexual things in nature.
Not like torture or violence.
Yeah. But one cartoon slid underneath this radar, and that cartoon is SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh God!
Because not on one, but not on two, but multiple occasions, he was in a in a cross relationship with Patrick, where Patrick was the husband and he was the wife. But then there was an episode, and I'll remember this till the day that I die, where he dressed Patrick up in a gimp outfit to include the ball gag. And
wasn't that during the movie?
No, that was in the TV show. He walked him on. He walked him on a leash. He walked him on a leash for a pet show. And no one said a thing. I'm losing my mind.
Okay, but all right. So here I'm gonna speak as the old lady here. When SpongeBob SquarePants came out, I tried watching it and I was like, I don't understand. None of this makes sense. So I'm telling you, all the parents were just completely baffled. They'd try to watch for like 3 seconds, get confused, and they'd go do something else. And that's why SpongeBob got to do everything.
SpongeBob came on, and those kids shut up.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's why parents exactly. Yeah. That's why parents didn't say a thing.
Absolutely. The most fun I've ever had with SpongeBob, and I challenge all of you to do this. It's really, really funny. Turn any random episode on at any time and hit mute. Go to your stereo and turn on reggae and turn it up. And for some reason, to any reggae song and SpongeBob, they sync up like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and
Wizard of Oz.
And the Wizard of Oz. They sync up. It is the craziest thing ever. And you're just watching SpongeBob walk across the screen. It works a lot better if you are drunk out of your mind.
Then it does.
But it is really, really funny. I had another point. I've not totally forgotten. It had something to do with Patrick Starfish and a Gimp mask. That's a really good.
That's a great visual.
That's
I
a
gotta
great-
find that image.
I mean,
I do too. Yes. Once you find it, send it to me because I couldn't. Like again, I tried to get into it honestly because I love Tom Kenny as a voice actor. I'm super nerdy about voice actors, but I just couldn't get into it. I was like, no.
By the way, his best work.
look at
His
that.
best work is The Ice King.
The
Hands
surreal-
down. The Ice King is don't even get me started about Adventure Time. Don't even get me started.
But like the surreal cartoons like this, like okay, so SpongeBob I can't get. Adventure Time I can kind of get, and I understand the appeal, and it is a fun show. It's just really not for me.
Adventure Time.
I started off with Aqua Teen Hunger Force and was a
Yes.
huge fan of that show.
Yes.
Talk about great voice acting, surreal animation, and a show that makes absolutely no sense. But it's not
Absolutely.
not
Mike
weird.
Rula, the old schooler.
Absolutely.
So, by the way, Frylock is totally looks like Jonathan Frakes to me. But
All right, I'll be right back.
that actually brings up the whole idea of how the difference between cartoons then and now is in the 90s and towards the 2000s is when cartoons started becoming adult consumed by adults.
And
The Simpsons was the first to do it, but that was like an outlier exception. And then other ones started coming, and things like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the Happy Tree Friends, King of the Hill, Daria, Beavis and Butthead, the Max, Eon Flux, and things like that were really changing the way the medium of cartoons were being consumed, because it used to be cartoons are just for kids. And now suddenly we have all these cartoons. Are they for kids? Maybe kids shouldn't be watching that.
I agree. Adventure Time, for example, is not. I personally do not feel that it is a children's show, a children's cartoon. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
see, my thing about it is though, when this transition happened, you had Daria and you had Beavis and Butthead, but they were all late night shows on MTV, which was a cable channel.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't getting much play. Cartoon Network, and fight me if you don't agree, but they did this themselves. They put adult themed cartoons prime time after school. I mean, because you got to think Fox at the time was showing Dragon Ball Z on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, following and or preceding Hercules and Xena. Oh, and Cleopatra 2525. Oh,
Hey, Gina Torres and Bruce Campbell.
you know what? They couldn't carry that show as much great as they were. And so none of these things were getting prime time viewing. I mean, even the anime on Sci-Fi Channel was coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Like it was cut to crap. I mean, you had Demon City Shinjuku, you had Gal Force Eternal Story, Akira, but these things were cut to shreds.
Let's not forget, at the same time that Cartoon Network was starting to bring cartoons into after school and prime time, so was Nickelodeon. And the Disney Channel, like that's when the Disney Channel seriously started to launch.
Yeah.
And we started getting, and there was definitely still a difference between there was like kid cartoons and then there were teen cartoons. Like that's where your Kim Possible and Animaniacs would be. And then there was definitely the adult cartoons that would be your Aqua Teen Hunger Force, your Daria, your what was the one?
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy. I was trying to think of the one.
Beavis and Butthead.
H. John Benjamin was in it before Archer.
Whole movies.
Yeah, whole movies.
Yeah,
I love that show. So good.
Me too. I love H. John Benjamin.
And that's the thing. And I think that's where Cartoon Network was so genius, right? Like Cartoon Network said, you want to come watch stuff after school? Fine. We'll give you Dragon Ball Z. We'll give you Gundam Wing. We'll give you Sailor Moon. We'll give you Inuyasha. We'll give you Trigun. We'll give you Cowboy Bebop. We'll give you Outlaw Star. And all of these things in their uncut versions should have probably been a later time frame. But because they got these kind of dubbed down dubs and they kind of edited out some of the blood and violence, you put these shows that had these continuing narratives and adult themes right after school. Little Timmy came home and was like, yo, I'm going to watch Goku kill this guy. And that's what happened.
14 years old, coming home from, grade 9, sitting down after school to watch Batman, the animated series. And I get to have my adult awakening to Harley Quinn.
Bruh,
Mr. J.
Look, you want to talk about a show that, like, again, because Fox did this, because remember, Fox had the X-Men cartoon, they had the Spider-Man cartoon, they also had Power Rangers, they had VR Troopers, they had Beetleborgs, they had what is it? Something the cat. Oh gosh, was it? No, that's Nickelodeon. Fox had a show called, was it Felix the Cat or Scritch the Cat? It was this weird show.
With Bobcat Goldthwait?
Yes.
I think that was Scritch the Cat or something like that.
Yeah. I remember the character now.
Yeah, and they had all that stuff, but it was dumbed down for kids. Whereas Cartoon Network's like, nah, fam, we're giving you all this. We're giving you all this stuff, all of it. And
so I've before you go on, I actually have a question for Tech and Cee Jay. So Cartoon Network is essentially YTV for you guys, right?
No, Teletoon.
Teletoon, right.
Right.
So what were the big things on Teletoon in the afternoon?
Ooh, I was a YTV girl, so I was watching Sailor Moon. I was watching Mummies Alive. These are more 90s cartoons, but
I remember that.
Yeah.
Beast Wars.
Beast Wars. There was some Power Rangers in there. Doug. I watched Daria.
Doug, I forgot all about Doug.
Look,
Yeah,
he took a step down when Disney bought him, and he became Disney's Doug. I wasn't happy with that.
Disney's Doug is a sellout.
But a lot of the YTV programming that we were watching was Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So we would get Rugrats and everything that spun off from there.
And Hey Arnold and things like that.
Right, yeah, exactly. But then we started getting the what's it called? It's not YTV After Dark. It's when they got like their 9 p.m. programming block once you've put all the young kids to bed, and then they started playing the Quads and
Clone High.
It wasn't The Zone.
Yeah, The Zone. That's
it was The Zone. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Because then exactly. Then Clone High and Mission Hill and
so good.
Undergrads.
Yeah.
Undergrads was Teletoon.
Oh, Teletoon, you're right.
Yeah. But also amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
So
hi, big buddy guy.
I have a question for all you guys, because down here we had PBS, which was the public broadcasting station. And,
we got PBS up here.
And I used to watch Ghost Rider.
Yep.
And I'd watch The
That was
Greatest
produced,
Show.
by the way, that was made like on Long Island, just so you know.
By the way, another wonderful show, Wishbone, with our wonderful costume wearing Jack Russell who solved crimes.
Oh no, he didn't solve crimes. You retold stories. You retold old stories.
He was he was like Romeo and Juliet, but he was Romeo. Like, oh my god, love Wishbone. And I know this isn't like a TV show or not a cartoon or anything, but who else watched the Carmen Sandiego game show? Because I did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone.
What was that? What was the Nick one with the?
Sorry, Jack says, "What's the story, Wishbone?"
Yeah.
What's the story, Wishbone? But I'm gonna have to go find that theme song.
But now I'm also thinking of where in the world is Carmen?
See, I used to watch the cartoon of Where in the World Was Carmen Sandiego.
That was a Fox show too.
I never watched the game show. I didn't know it existed till I was way older.
I knew about the game show. Yeah.
The good thing about the game show is it had rockapella.
Yes. By the way, that was a thing in the 90s. Like rockapella stuff, like it was kind of everywhere.
Yeah,
like,
and if they redid it today, it'd be Pentatonics, and we all know it.
Yeah. You're so right.
But
let the bass drop.
But they what was that Nick game show where you had to like dive into the slime and go down the
Double
slide?
Dare.
Double Dare.
No, wait, what? What's Double Dare?
Really?
Yeah, at first I
Wait,
thought you were talking. You can't do that on television.
No. It was a Nickelodeon game show for kids. It was almost like that American Gladiators game show, but geared towards a tween audience. Where it was like you and your sister, and you had to like answer questions and things. And if you got it wrong,
yeah, that's
Well, no, different show.
No, because you had. Remember, here's the funny thing, right? You had the original Double Dare, but then you had Family Double Dare. Family Double Dare is where you had the whole family, whereas regular Double Dare you had
was that
smaller
the one with the amazing Jonathan as the host?
No. That was Mark Summers, who is a super germaphobe, and so when you see people hugging him on the show, he's freaking out. It's great.
So, full disclosure, we didn't have cable growing up, so a lot of these like Nickelodeon shows, I have no idea. we had like 5 channels, but there was some game show that sounded a lot like that. But it was the Amazing Jonathan, I think that's his name. That
he's a wonderful comic
comedian / magician guy. He was the host, and it was really corny.
Let's see, Nickelodeon in the 90s, they made me want to be on a game show. Like I watched Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and The Price is Right. Yeah. But nothing captured my attention like Wild and Crazy Kids, Global Guts, Double Dare, Nick Arcade. Oh,
they could put you in the video game.
You are, bruh. I'm in the arcade all the time. I could win this show. I could be on that show. Like that,
I can jump higher than that. What the hell's their problem?
Watching those kids struggle with ghosts and goblins made me want to break my television. It was my first in case of nerd rage.
So
get the power up, God.
So what examples of cartoons that we have today do you kind of wish that we had when you were growing up?
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, I would have loved me some Regular Show.
I don't know that one. I don't know Regular Show.
Regular Show is Cartoon Network, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was another one of their overarching narrative shows. Like they had a slew of them for a while. But this one was was it like a fox and like a little like raccoon?
A raccoon and a blue jay. So they work at a park, and basically it's just kind of their misadventures. What I like about it is like it doesn't like you don't know what decade they're in, but like there's VHSs and there's cassettes, but then there's other stuff that's like present day stuff,
like Archer.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's not an individual show that I want. It's can you give me the shows that I watched then with the voice acting cast and the production values and the budget and the respect for the fans that we have today? Could you imagine how good G.I. Joe would be if I had the budget and cast of, say, an Archer?
Oh.
I mean, we have a couple of those, and very specifically, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Voltron, and they're coming out with a new She-Ra, which I'm very excited about.
But see, you know what? Unless they do
can
another,
we get a Gem and the Holograms redone, please? But
don't bring up Gem and the Holograms because that movie's trash. Don't bring it up.
No, that movie is not Gem and the Holograms. That was a Disney movie that they just called Gem and the Holograms. No, that's literally the story.
They chose not to work with the original writer, and then they went into their bin and pulled out a generic music script, dusted it off, sharpied over the cover, and just called it Gem and the Holograms and made it close enough. It'll sell a couple. By the way,
Gem and the Holograms, I think was probably I would say to me, the first American-made magical girl.
Yeah,
she went through a transformation sequence. I mean,
no, I would definitely call Gem and the Holograms a magical girl show.
Did you see the video that has surfaced of the American live-action Sailor Moon that they wanted to make?
Don't even get me started.
It's painful.
Yes, that's a nice way of putting it. That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. It is just horrific.
Have you seen it, Jason?
Live-action Sailor Moon?
Right. So when they bought Sailor Moon, and they started making the American dubs. They figured that they could go on with this, but they wanted to make it American. So they made there's a like a test reel footage
Lord have
of
mercy.
a trailer they made to try to sell to the networks. It was an American Sailor Moon style show.
But isn't
Terrible.
the sad part like, and I don't remember how much is the comedy riff that you built from this,
Right.
but isn't the sad part like the actress like moved to LA?
No, that was all me.
That was all you.
That was
Okay,
all my
sorry.
riff. But the premise is that these girls are angels and they come to Earth to save people. But it is a mix of like bad stock footage, horrible acting. The theme song sounds like it belongs in a bad mid-'80s toy commercial. And God, it was just bad enough that I want Jason to watch it. Jason needs to watch this. And I want to be there when he watches it so I can hold him and we can laugh.
I need to dig up the link. I'll put it in the show notes.
It is.
See, I've already inured myself to such things because
no, you haven't. You think you have. You are not prepared, my friend.
You've never seen the live action Gundam movie, have you?
Oh no.
Yeah.
How
I've
did we
seen
get
that.
from talking about amazing cartoons to terrible things that I wish I could unsee?
Because me and Tech,
It's fun to torture all of you because
yeah. But no, you know what? I have to agree with Tech. It's not that I want a show, from then now or from now back then. I personally just want the access because it's funny. I was going through my anime collection the other day and reorganizing it, and it's still just as huge. Like 4 really large DVD books full of nothing but Japanese cartoons.
like if you could send the hentai to 15-year-old Jason, would you?
Yes.
I was already corrupted enough. I don't know how much more damage it could have done, but no, it's because back in the day, right?
By the way, 14-year-old Nutty would have been horrified.
I mean, it's you gotta
I
learn.
have to agree on the whole having access thing because
Yeah.
y'all are sitting here talking about cartoons I've never heard of.
Because Jen's like me, she grew up without cable.
Right. Like there was no cable in where I grew up. Like you had to get a satellite. We didn't get a satellite till I was in 8th, 9th grade, maybe.
Oh,
So
my parents were just like, no.
we didn't have access.
See, I think when I realized that there'd be a lot of stuff that I'd watch that Jay would have no idea about was when back before Netflix had streaming, and I was super excited, and I'm like, oh, I got to move these to the top of my DVD queue.
And I'm like, what the hell are we watching?
And I'm like, it's Pete and Pete.
And I'm like, I've never known. I don't know what that is.
RT, the strongest man.
I'm sorry,
in the
but if that's
world.
what he was watching back then, it doesn't hold up now.
No, it does not. Yeah, I think I'll have to agree. Like the access would have been outstanding. I'm not sure if my parents would have still let me watch. That's kind of the problem because it was they didn't get cable and we weren't allowed to watch TV in the summer, and we were only allowed to watch 2 hours a day. And maybe whatever mom and dad were watching during prime time, but Saturday morning was free.
Were you in a concentration camp?
No.
I'm just curious.
In my family, it was violent programming because I grew up in a family of competitive shooters. I've been shooting since I was 4 years old. And my mom was very concerned about gunplay on TV, that I might get the wrong idea about the guns in the house, which was complete and utter. That's my mother to a T. But things like G.I. Joe, the original series, where they would shoot thousands of laser guns at each other, never actually hit anything, and then punch each other out in close quarter combat because that's what you do, or use the wings of your airplane to cut tanks in half because that's completely. But then whenever the airplanes would crash, everybody would parachute out, or everyone in the tank would manage to jump out.
Spoiler alert, lots and lots of people died in G.I. Joe. If you had a name and you were a main cast member, you were safe. But if you were,
No,
if
they
you
were all unconscious. They were all unconscious. All of the explosions,
Sleeping.
everyone dove away from explosions. Everyone got knocked out with punches. No one ever shot anyone with their rifles.
Fox,
was
do a
all
barrel
fine.
roll.
Woke up in a different place, and restarted that level, but they were still alive.
Fox, do a barrel roll.
But yeah,
Your
so
father
your parents blocked gun shows that had shooting and lots of violence.
Just any violence. And I love this trope of the 80s and 90s in kids shows that I can't show violence against another person because that would be too violent for kids.
Robots can murder the living tar out of each other.
Exactly. But if my Ninja Turtle character uses his nunchuck to beat a humanoid looking robot, so basically all I have to do is take the animation and just add gears flying away from the Foot Clan ninja as he gets cut in half. Now it's completely fine to show disembowelment and beheadings and things because they're robots. They're not really human. It's completely cool.
Why did Klingons have pink blood and Vulcans have blue blood? Because they didn't want blood on the TV because then it would be considered too violent. It does not make any sense.
No, it does not.
I mean, and here's the funny part. I think parents got an awakening to this with the 1986 Transformers movie when the company when the company thought, oh, we're going to use this movie to get rid of some of these old robots to get new toys. And spoiler alert, they kill Optimus Prime and kids lost it. They were traumatized.
Of course.
And parents were super upset. They're like, what in the world did you do to my child? And by the way, if you've not seen his death scene, it's terrifying. It is super sad.
They didn't just kill off a character.
He's
gone to his home planet now. Buy the new toy. No. They dragged this out for the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yes, because
it is harsh.
Because it's not only like the Decepticons invade. Optimus is on his way to help Autobot City defend off this invasion. He then gets into a bare knuckle brawl against Megatron, who rips open his gut with a spike, and he like double axe handle like Hulk Hogan or Star Trek styles Megatron, and has one of the best lines ever because Megatron begs for mercy, and he's like, "You, Megatron, you won without mercy. Now beg for it. I thought you were made of sterner stuff." It's the best line. And then
Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. How
I
good
know,
are they?
so good. But Megatron blasts him in the gut because of the interference of Hot Rod, and he's got a great line because he's shooting him, and Optimus won't fall. He's like, "Fall, Prime, fall!" But he defeats him. Blah blah blah. And that's when we get the death scene. He's on a table connected to like EKGs, and they're beeping, and the medical robot's like, "There's nothing I can do for him." And you're like, as a kid, you're like, "Wait, what?" And he like hands off the leadership of Matrix, and you're like, "Wait, no,
but he's gonna be okay, right?"
No, you can't. You can't give that to him. No one likes Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus sucks. Optimus, you got to stay here. And then to kill you better, he fades to black and white while everything else is this lush, awesome color. And then the EKG falls flat. He's black and white, and his head tips to the side. And Optimus Prime is dead. And children are weeping and mourning for the loss of this cartoon character. And my poor, rotten youth mind is watching this movie like, they're going to bring this guy back, right? he's coming back at the end of this thing, right?
No, then after that we get Rodimus Prime, and no one cared.
Yeah, exactly. No one wants a Lamborghini with a trailer attached. I'm sorry, this isn't the trailer park I live here.
So Shane had popped in earlier and left some feedback. He wanted to say, sorry he couldn't stay. He had to sleep, but his favorite cartoon growing up was an anime called, how do I say that, Tech?
Hold on, let me zoom in here. Gara Busu Monogatari.
Yeah, and in parentheses it says oxtails. I've never heard of that. But he says his favorite right now is One Punch Man.
One Punch.
Yeah.
It's that's Geru Geru Boru Monogatari. Monogatari, you find a lot attached to a lot of things called Japanese ghost stories. The actual Monogatari series is actually really, really good. I never heard of this one. I'll have to look this up.
All right, cool. So yeah, One Punch, I think, is probably one of the more refreshing shows that's on nowadays. And I can't wait for season 2.
As a skinny bald dude, this is a cosplay I can do.
Yes, but you haven't done it yet.
No, not yet.
No. See, this is why I want the access, because like I said earlier, I was going through my anime collection and I was looking at the DVDs I have, and I was paying back in the day, I was paying $30 for one DVD that was subtitled and only had 3 episodes on it. If I wanted the subtitle or the dubbed, it was $40.
Yeah.
And
well, even that, I mean, that's pretty decent compared to some of the prices I remember for anime.
And yeah, and nowadays, although I still think the prices are out of line, you can get an entire series for $60.
Or you can
just
subscribe
watch
to
it on-
Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
But 2 things have changed in the dichotomy that is access to anime. One, streaming. Like, because someone asked me, they said, do you feel like you wasted your money with your anime collection? I said, no. I was like, because spoiler alert, ask anybody in the 90s. No one thought streaming was going to be a thing. Matter of fact, we wouldn't have even been able to fathom the idea of having...
You wouldn't have been, even if you didn't buy it then and you waited for streaming, that was all those years that you hadn't seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also I'll tell you now, I've got stuff that most people watching anime, unless they're my age, probably have never heard of, and they ain't streaming nowhere. Like Tokyo Majin is a show I've had for over a decade, and it just hit Crunchyroll or Hulu, I can't remember which one, recently.
Well, how long did it take for Initial D to show up on streaming? We've been waiting for that forever, and it finally hit Netflix.
Oh my God, Tech! Did you see the Initial D, that movie? They have the Initial D movie on Netflix. I saw it the other day.
Would you like
They
to see
do
the DVD?
not.
Would you like to see the DVD of the live action Initial D movie that's on my shelf?
Stop.
Because as soon as it came out in North America, I bought that over 12 years ago. Now, what I'm waiting for is for the Initial D anime to come back to Netflix, because it was there for a while. I've watched the first 2 series multiple times, but I've never been able to get access to the 3rd one to finish watching the story. And I was about halfway through the 3rd one when something happened. I think I went on course or something, and I couldn't finish watching it. So I'm trying to finish.
I think it just popped back on.
No, that's the movie.
Oh, that's the movie.
That's the live action movie, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And they changed a lot of the characters, and but the real actors of that show, the Cars, are there, and an R33 Skyline is still an R33 Skyline, and A86 Trueno is still Hachiroku, and FD3S is still an FD3S, and none of these letter and number things mean anything to any of you, because you're all evil, hateful, horrible people.
By the way,
and I'm awesome. So that's what we get there.
By the way, Tech, this is the 2nd time in the matter of weeks where I've seen something on Crunchyroll or Netflix, and I go, "Oh my God, that's for Tech."
That's for Tech. That's just for Tech. Is the other one Strike Witches?
Yep.
It's weird. I logged into Crunchyroll. I couldn't find it.
Oh my God, dude, it's on there. It's on there.
I know. I believe you. I went and looked, and I think there's a localization issue where us here in the Great White North may not get the same series that you guys do get down there.
That would be
terrible.
horrible. That would be absolutely
like
horrible.
as soon as I saw that, I had to send a pic. I was like, "That's Tech." Like for the people listening, I got Tech. It wasn't a birthday present. It was it was a volume 1 of Strike Witches of some kind, or a manga volume of it, because Tech has an obsession with aircraft, but specifically World War II aircraft.
Yeah.
So when you make cute cat girl anime girls that are anthropomorphic World War II aircraft, they have now made the show specifically for him and no one else.
It's anthropomorphic World War II aircraft done as Japanese cat girls in their underpants, flying through the sky, fighting demons with historically accurate machine guns in their hands. I know what an MG-34 and an MG-08 look like, so
This
trust
sounds
me,
amazing.
I know. And when I see this, it was actually a comment from Nutty where I had found art of the show before I knew what the show was, and there's the one character that's the British Spitfire. And she's got, the 303s in her hands, and Nutty looks at it and goes, "Did somebody draw that like just for you?"
Here's the best part. It doesn't stop at strike witches, because they've got not only
collection, there's girls in Panzer,
there's tanks, there's battleships.
There's one now where there's a mobile game that's come out where they're just guns. Where the girls are anthropomorphic guns. So you have a girl who is a Mosin Nagant, a girl who's an AK-47, a girl who's an M16, apparently. But it's just a bad game. I didn't want to play it.
So I have a question. Of the shows that you remember from the 80s and the 90s, what shows do you think would still be good if they aired today?
Daria,
yeah.
She's coming back.
The Max.
By the way, Daria's coming back.
I heard. We'll see if it actually happens. I
exactly. I'll believe it when I see it.
Stuff that would
Batman the animated series.
You could air that as is, and it would still fly. Like Robin's Reckoning is still one of the best things to ever come out of that show, and that entire show is fantastic.
Best thing that ever came out of that show was Harley Quinn. Thank you very much.
Oh no.
That version of Harley Quinn. They
Invented Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn did not exist in the comics. It is the first time that an adaptation influenced the comic books and the comics followed the character.
Shows that could air today that would still be good: Animaniacs and Tiny Toons.
Oh yeah.
Both.
Apparently Animaniacs is supposed to be coming back.
Yeah, Animaniacs is supposed to be coming back, and same thing with Freakazoid.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like Tiny Toons today, because they did all that political commentary?
Oh God!
What was it?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of see Freakazoid in today's society.
He's coming back, so is Animaniacs. And by the way, spoiler alert, I got the VHS of the Tiny Toon Adventures, How I Spent My Summer Vacation movie on my shelf back in the house I grew up.
With the homicidal maniac hitchhiker that they pick up on the way?
Yes. And it was a musical. The best part is it was a musical.
Their musical episodes were the best.
Yes, 100%.
Dude, it's
their collaboration with They Might Be Giants.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
And one of my favorite episodes of the show, spoiler, is when they do the music video versions, and they're doing like Tiny Toon Adventures versions of popular music as music videos. Like it's great. Like I just.
What exactly did you spoil there?
My love of that thing.
I'm waiting for
Does
you
that count as a spoiler alert? Like
Bob, like there's spoiler alert. I love that show.
I think at this point, Nutty, I don't think I can spoil things about me anymore. Like, about my D&D, about my anime love, that I played chess,
and you're in the band,
and I was in band. Like, I think all of
Jason
my
likes to talk.
I think all of my hidden nerd secrets are out now because of your podcast. I think they're all out.
Maybe. Yeah. So it's actually pretty well. I think we've gone in a really good direction. I think the 80s specifically, the 90s, it started to get a bit better, but the 80s specifically was a bad time for cartoons. And I think that things started to get better. And if you think about it, like old style, original Saturday morning cartoons, this is they actually were so much better when you think of like the Looney Tunes, where they had jokes for the kids and jokes for the adults, and then it was like, hey, these things are popular. We'll keep airing them to death and let's make new ones. And the new ones sucked.
My thing is like this: Pixar stole their entire mantra from old school like Looney Tunes and Saturday morning cartoons.
I have to mention the so we were talking about this thing about the 80s and how they didn't care about their audience, and then they started figuring that out slowly and they started respecting the audience. Disney was a little slower on the take, and Disney was really good at brainwashing, at putting in these heavy-handed messages into things. And the one episode I remember, it was the Lilo and Stitch TV show.
Yeah, the movie is great.
Right, the movie's great. The TV show was a hot mess. And there was one episode where Lilo is like, oh no, we have to stalk Dr. Somebody and his genetic mutations. And she turns and looks at the camera. The music stops. She breaks the fourth wall and goes, because genetic experimentation is wrong. 3 seconds of silence. And then they move on with the rest of the episode.
By the way, Stitch is a genetic experiment.
Right.
I literally was like, wait.
Yeah, but it was, but the whole idea is they're trying to make a point.
Oh yeah.
About things going on in the real world.
By the way, you just reminded me, the first Disney character to be a person of color who should have been a princess was Lilo, and she's not even today. They had to make Moana.
Lilo is a princess in my heart. I love Lilo.
What about I forget her name, Frog Princess. She was before Moana.
She's a princess. She was a princess.
She's a princess.
And definitely before Moana.
Yeah, and as much as I hate this movie, but isn't Pocahontas considered a princess?
She is.
She is, but I mean, they whitewashed that movie so hard.
Yes, they did. It's absolutely horrible.
Yes, they did. Well, they had to in order for her to fit in with the other princesses, because I mean, Jasmine is technically,
Oh yeah, Jasmine.
She's a POC, and so yeah, they have to whitewash it because they have to appease the masses.
Disney doesn't.
You just say, who's shushing me? Listen here.
Disney doesn't recognize the Middle East as people of color. Shh.
No, they don't. They don't. These are facts.
It's of all the stories that have been told in the history of mankind, and all the stories that you've got that you pick that you want to make into a children's movie, the story of Pocahontas, and then but you know what? And then that whole thing in England where they were sold into slavery and then they were exhibited around as freaks, and none of that ever happened, and they all lived happily ever after.
That completely skipped over because she married John Smith and they all lived happily ever after.
Totally wasn't raped.
Rape, none of that.
And she wasn't a 16-year-old girl either. Shh.
Right, the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
You know what?
Falls off the cathedral. No, he lives. He's fine.
Yeah.
Pocahontas is actually one of the older princesses. She is supposed to be 17.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about in real life. She was a child.
Of course she was.
Yeah, she was like child, not just like teenage child.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the 80s being a bad time for cartoons, and it was because there was this little known anime company out there. You guys might remember these commercials. They were like, manga! And they were like, yeah, blood, gore, violence, sword slashes, ninjas, samurai, robots, blood, manga!
Yeah, so, set to KMFDM's Ultra.
Yeah, manga entertainment was probably one of the best and worst things to ever happen to anime.
Ninja Scroll.
Yeah. Ninja Scroll, Wicked City, a lot of things they put out, and they put them out as they were meant to be seen. The problem was people distributed them like they were just a normal cartoon. I could go into Blockbuster and rent Ninja Scroll, which I did.
What was the anime that we saw the kid trying to check out with, and we had to tell his mom what
it was La Blue Girl, and then I think
it was La Blue Girl. Like, he does not want to watch that. He's 10. Yeah. Oh, but it's just a cartoon. It's fine for kids. No, these are Japanese cartoons, and these are made for adults, especially that one.
And she goes, but look, it's not even rated. I'm like, yeah, that means there's no rating. Nobody checked it.
Yeah. And the thing is, manga entertainment wanted to sell these weird foreign cartoons. So they marketed them as these bloody, violent like they were the extreme of the 80s, and it worked really, really well. So that now, even in 2018, we're still fending off the concept that all anime is tentacle porn and big boob girls and fetishes and kinks, where we do have things like you guys said. We have things like One Punch Man, which is a wonderful Superman allegory that's hilarious. My Hero Academia, which is basically Harry Potter meets superheroes.
Wars.
To be fair, that show does have some of that lineage in it, but I can go make that food. They gave her that foodgasm, so it's okay, right?
So like, what are the most popular anime in the world right now about basketball teams?
Right now, I would say the top 5 would be Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, and then you would have some of the sports anime like Yuri on Ice, which has the first openly gay anime relationship ever.
Yeah, I think that's the true for North America. But if you go to like Asia, the anime they're into are like these
Totally different
teen dramas about basketball teams and
Kuroko no Basket.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? It's about well, there's one for like every sport. There's one about tennis. There's one about
Swimming.
a cycling team. There's one about a swimming team.
Yep. There's Prince. There is, let's see, Prince of Tennis, which is the tennis one. They have Yawamusha Peta, which is the bicycling one. There is there's All Out, which is rugby. They have a soccer one whose name I cannot remember at the time, but it's
about baseball.
Something Knights. Yep. There is Big Wind Up, Major, Second Major, and Ace of Diamond, which are all baseball anime. Ace of Diamond is the best. It's fantastic. Then there's the basketball, which is Kuroko no Basket, but you also had Slam Dunk from the 80s. From the 80s. And then you also have other sports, like they have a volleyball the volleyball anime out now.
So pretty much there's every sport. So Steve,
there's even a table tennis one, yeah.
Steve Pritchard has joined us in the chat. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
He says he remembers Akira in the U.S. theatrical release and counting how many parents with kids stormed out of the theater in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
You lucky man. That is okay. I have seen a lot of Ghibli on the big screen. I've seen Wind Rises, Secret World of Arrietty. I've seen.
I'm sorry, Jason. Are you bowing down to Steve's nerddom?
I don't have to bow down because I wasn't born at the time when it was put in the theaters. I was like, I don't know, 2, I guess, maybe. But by the way, if they ever did do an Akira theatrical release, I would see it in a heartbeat because that would be an amazing thing. Same thing with Ghost in the Shell. The
real Ghost in the Shell, yes.
Yeah, real Ghost in the Shell. We're not talking about you, ScarJo.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. They never did a live action movie.
Yep, I mentioned that movie, and Tech runs away because his rage is too much.
Cee Jay, we did a whole episode about whitewashing in Hollywood specifically because she was cast.
And I bring it all, and by the way, I bring it all the way back around because that was the episode 2 years ago that I was on with Shane.
Aw, your Shane-iversary.
It is.
Steve says, "Oh, come on. It was the mid-'80s, wasn't it? God, I forgot. I'm old.
I was born in the mid-'80s.
Steve, I've been alive since the 70s, so, you know.
I am a 90s baby. So I am just like the vast majority of things that you're talking about are going over my head. So I'm just there.
That's okay. You bring the more of the later 90s stuff that
later 90s current 2000s current. When you get there, let me know.
Yeah. I was probably way too old to be watching these things for when I was watching them. Like I remember the inception of like Nick's cartoons and like Rocko's Modern Life and all that kind of stuff. But like when people start talking about like Kim Possible and all these shows, and I'm like, what?
I know of them because I have nieces and nephews.
We had at work, because I deal with a lot of students, we wanted to have these posters up with some of the phone numbers of the staff. So if the students have problems after hours and they have nobody else they can call, they know that there's some of us that they can call 24 hours a day and we'll be there to help them. So one of my my coworkers, he just made up a simple little poster, and he found some clip art, and he just put some clip art together in a dorky poster with our phone numbers, and he put it up on the wall. And one of the pictures that he used, and it was a clip art of Kim Possible, and it says, if you're in trouble anytime, call me and I'll come help you. And it's just Kim Possible. And one of the older bosses at work, we had a VIP coming to visit the school, and he had us tear all the posters down. Like, yeah, all those posters with like the half nude teenage girl on it, you're going to have to take all those down because they're going to get the wrong impression. Like, what are you talking about? That's a Disney cartoon character.
And she's wearing pants and a top.
And a midriff top.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
all that's showing is her midriff. I think
they don't know what it is. They're going to get the wrong idea. It's like, oh,
by the way, like, spoiler alert, if Kim Possible is one of the most renowned cartoons from Disney's creation, like, no one talks about the Gummy Bears cartoon.
We do, but generally not in a positive light.
I want that potion.
What'd you say, Jen?
I love Gummy Bears.
Don't rewatch it.
Bouncing here and there and
I've
everywhere.
never been able to find it again.
The best joke about that was on Robot Chicken with the gummy bear, and it's like, I'm a gummy bear, and he gets trapped in the bear trap, and he has to eat his leg off. Best joke ever.
All right. On that note, when we came up with this topic, I was trying to find a nice catchy title. So I asked the Mixed Nutcases in the Facebook group, which you can go to by going to facebook.com/group/nuttybites. And these are some of the suggestions that I thought I would read just because they were funny to me, at least. So Uncle Monster says, the sociological impact of animated entertainment programs, a comparison of programs from the 1980s and 90s against modern programs.
That has my vote.
Uncle Monster, why are you making a Limp Bizkit album title from the 90s, early aughts?
And the hot dog flavored water.
I said it sounded like elastic paper. And then he says, or tunes then and now and how they shaped who we are. Or if Thundar met Rick and Morty.
Yes.
So Jay Lengens, the man of 1,000 voices, who does Masterpiece Audio Theater, which you can hear his latest episodes by going to nimlast.org. And he says, from marketing to message and all the movies in between, shows like G.I. Joe and Transformers being about selling toys to shows that tried to present a moral message and sell toys.
Well, then.
That's not actually a title. And some guy named Jason, he said, of Toons and Loons and Nutty Bites debating the different impacts of the 80s and 90s cartoons and today. And finally, Christiana Ellis has said, Saturday morning gravitas.
I like that one.
Yes. I like that one too.
I thought they were all great. And Steve says, I stand corrected. I think it was early spring 1990 for Akira. On a positive note, I got to see the initial dub for the US of Laputa and at about the same time. Lots of happy families stuck through it.
They haven't put that one on the Ghibli Fest yet. Laputa Castle in the Sky.
I know. I want it. And he says Bear Trap, yes. And Thundar meets Rick and Morty got my vote.
Yeah.
So
Morty.
So that's cartoons. So what did you all think about cartoons then and now? Why don't you contact us by listening to the stuff on the outro, and it'll tell you how to email, which websites to go to, and how to contact us. I want to thank our patrons really quickly before we go. Yes. I want to thank Big Daddy Jason. Some weird guy named Jason.
Thank you, Daddy.
Yeah.
Let your praise wash over me. Cleanse me of the filth.
All right.
Make his head bigger. There you go.
I know, right? We want to thank Jax. Thank you so much. He also does our QA. We want to thank Beth, Susanna, Jane, our number one fan, who was not able to join us tonight, but listen to the Red Dwarf intro cast. They've got new episodes out. Harold, Ian of the Web of Queer, Melissa, the Bathtub Mermaid. You can listen to her by going to thebathtubmermaid.com.
Big Daddy endorses her.
Lynette of the Bycast. Go to thebycast.org. Justine, Andy, Luke, who we're going to be podcasting with next month as part of a big fundraiser. Ken Kennedy of Kenzoid's Autonomous Zone. Susan, Mike of the Redacted Files. Rich the TT. Patrick Scafito. Kinsey, the Radical Geek. Hey, and that guy Steve, who's in our chat right now. Hey,
Hi,
Steve. Greg Larson and Zach Man. Thank you so much. Oh, and often Nick.
And often Nick.
Yes.
And to everybody else who is not a patron, who is listening anyways, to the guys who don't talk in the chat, to the people who are just listening at home, to the people who are listening in their cars, to everybody who is there, come and say hi. We don't fight often, but thanks for listening anyways.
And if you don't say hi, that's cool too. We still appreciate you. Thank you so much. Before we sign off, Cee Jay, you're new to podcasting, but is there anything that you'd like to promote?
No, just that I'm awesome.
Not
You
yet.
are?
Not yet.
Not yet. No, not yet. No, I just, I was observing and I'm like, okay, like just kind of, seeing how things go. But yeah, no, it was a great learning experience. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And you are welcome back anytime. I had a blast chatting with you. I'm pretty sure everybody else did.
So it's been fun, rookie.
Thank
And
you.
Jen and Jason, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Come on, Jen. You could do it. You could do
It's
it.
been too long.
All right, here we go. And as always, you can find us on our website at talknerdytomepodcast.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdytome. And of course, you can find us on Twitter at nerdytomepodcast. Although I've got to redo this because it's gotten even longer because I've got Nostalgia Pilots at nostalgiapilots.com. And also, I'm on here enough. I swear to God, I should just add Nutty Bites. Like, I'm on here enough. Like, I should
You should.
just add it on.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll catch y'all later. Bye.
Bye.
And I will
Bye.
hit stop on my recording device.
All right, I'm out here.
All right.
See you guys.
And CJ,
Dream
before
of
you
World War
go,
II planes tech.
I just have a couple questions for CJ. Let me stop the broadcast first.